The music academy was unusually busy that afternoon. Students walked through the long corridors carrying files and sheet music. Soft piano sounds floated from different practice rooms. It was evaluation day, an important day for every learner in the academy. Inside the main hall, a small stage had been prepared. A grand piano stood in the center, polished and shining. Several teachers sat behind a long table with notebooks and serious expressions. One by one, students were called to perform. Some played confidently. Some made small mistakes. A few were clearly nervous. Applause came and went, polite and formal. Everything seemed normal. Then a new name was called. A young woman stood up from the back row. She looked different from the others. Her clothes were simple and plain. No stylish outfit. No proud attitude. She carried herself quietly, almost shyly. As she walked toward the stage, a few students looked at her with curiosity. One whispered, "I have never seen her before," another replied softly. "She must be new." The teachers glanced at her papers. She was a recent admission, with very little information in her record to them. She looked like an average beginner, nothing more. One of the senior teachers spoke in a low voice to his colleagues. "Let us test her properly," he said. "Give her something challenging," the others agreed. They decided to assign her one of the most difficult piano pieces in their program, a composition usually reserved for advanced students. It was not a fair choice, but they wanted to see how she would react under pressure when her turn officially came. The teacher handed her the music sheet. "This is your piece," he said firmly. "Please prepare to perform it now." The woman looked at the sheet. Her face remained calm. She did not protest. She did not ask for an easier option. She simply nodded. "All right," she replied softly. Some students exchanged surprised looks. "That piece is extremely hard." Someone murmured, "She will definitely struggle." Another whispered, "Eh." Few even felt a little sorry for her. The woman walked toward the piano. Her steps were slow but steady. From the audience seats, many expected to see nervous shaking hands, confused expressions, or even fear. But she showed none of that. She placed the sheet music on the stand and adjusted the bench quietly. The teachers watched closely, already prepared to stop her if she failed badly in their minds. This was just another inexperienced student about to face reality. She sat down. For a brief moment, she closed her eyes. The hall became silent. Then, she opened them again and gently rested her fingers on the keys. There was something strangely confident in the way she touched the piano, something that no one noticed at first. One teacher whispered, "Let's see how long she lasts." Another smiled slightly. The students waited for the first mistake. Her hands began to move. The first notes filled the room. Clean, clear, perfect, the word that. Teachers immediately looked up from there. "Papers that was not the sound of a beginner," she continued. Playing, the difficult composition flowed naturally from her fingers, as if she had played it 1,000 times. Before, there was no hesitation, no confusion, no fear, only pure understanding of music. The room slowly changed. Whispers disappeared, smiles faded. Surprise replaced every expression. The woman was no longer the shy, ordinary student they had imagined at the piano. She seemed completely different, confident, experienced expert. Her posture was relaxed. Her timing was flawless. Every note carried emotion and control. One teacher leaned forward in disbelief. "This cannot be her first time," he muttered. Another nodded silently. Unable to speak, the piece grew more complex. Fast movements, difficult transitions, deep, emotional sections. She handled everything with graceful ease. It was as if the piano was not testing her. She was mastering it. The same teachers who had tried to challenge her now realized they had made a serious misjudgment. Among the students, reactions were even stronger. The ones who had expected failure now watched with open mouths. Some felt embarrassed for doubting her, others felt inspired. No one had imagined that such extraordinary talent was sitting quietly among them all. This time, as the final part of the piece approached, the hall was completely silent, except for her. Music, every heart in the room was focused on the simple woman at the piano. No one cared any more about her plain dress or quiet personality. All they could see now was her incredible skill. Her fingers played the last powerful notes, then slowly the melody came to a gentle end. She lifted her hands from the keys. Silence followed, a long, shocked silence. The teachers looked at one another, searching for words. Students sat frozen. No one knew how to react. Finally, one teacher began to clap, then another. Soon the entire hall filled with applause, loud, sincere, and full of respect. The woman stood up and bowed her head humbly. The senior teacher cleared his throat. "You performed that piece beautifully," he admitted. "May I ask where you learned to play like this?" The woman gave a small, modest smile. "I have been playing piano for many years," she answered softly. The room fell quiet again at that moment. Everyone realized something important. They had tried to test the wrong person. The simple young woman they thought was a beginner was hiding a lifetime of experience, and the real lesson of the day was not about music at all. It was about judgment. After the applause slowly faded, the atmosphere in the hall felt completely different. The teachers sat a little straighter in their chairs. Their serious expressions had softened. They now looked at the young woman with new respect instead of doubt. One of them asked gently, "Why didn't you tell us about your background before?" She paused for a moment before replying. "I wanted to be treated like everyone else," she said. "I didn't want special attention." Her answer touched everyone in the room. Many students lowered their eyes, remembering how quickly they had judged her only an hour earlier. The senior teacher nodded thoughtfully. "Talent does not need to announce itself," he said quietly. "Today you reminded us of that." The evaluation continued for the rest of the day. But no other performance created the same impact. Even the most confident students now seemed a little more humble. The quiet woman returned to her seat in the back, exactly where she had been sitting before. She did not celebrate. She did not boast. She simply watched the remaining performances like any normal student. But now, people looked at her differently. Some smiled at her with admiration. Others whispered respectful words. A few even asked her for advice. She answered everyone kindly, never acting superior to anyone. When the day finally ended, the teachers gathered to discuss the results. There was no argument about who had performed the best. Her name was written at the top of the list without hesitation, not only because of her flawless skill, but because of the grace and humility she had shown as she prepared to leave the academy that evening. The senior teacher stopped her near the door. "You taught us something important today," he said sincerely. "Never stop playing." She thanked him with a gentle smile and stepped outside into the cool evening air. The sun was setting beyond the buildings. The busy sounds of the city filled the streets. She walked away quietly, carrying her simple bag, looking just like she had in the morning. But inside, she felt peaceful. She had not come to prove anything, yet she had proven a powerful truth without saying a single word. That day became a small legend in the academy. Teachers told the story to new students in later years about the ordinary-looking young woman who was given an impossible challenge, and about how she answered it not with anger, not with pride, but with beautiful music, because in the end, real talent does not need loud voices. It only needs one honest moment and a chance to be heard. The applause slowly faded, but the feeling in the hall did not. Something important had just happened. Everyone could sense it. The air felt lighter, yet heavier at the same time. It's filled with surprise and quiet respect. The young woman remained standing beside the piano, calm and composed, as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. But for everyone watching, it was far more than ordinary. The teachers were still trying to understand what they had just witnessed a few minutes earlier. They believed they were testing a nervous beginner. Now they realized the truth. It was completely different. The senior teacher adjusted his glasses and looked at her carefully. "You played that piece as if it was written for you," he said. "How long have you been practicing piano?" The woman thought for a moment. "Since I was a child," she answered softly. "Music has always been part of my life," her simple reply made the teachers exchange surprised glances. No one had imagined such a history behind her quiet face. One of the younger teachers leaned forward. "Why didn't you tell us? You were already experienced?" he asked. She smiled gently. "I came here to learn, not to show off," she said. "I wanted to start fresh, like everyone else." Her words touched something deep inside the room. Many of the students felt a small wave of shame. They remembered how they had whispered about her, how they had assumed she would fail, how they had judged her only because she looked simple and shy. Now they saw her differently, not as a weak beginner, but as someone strong enough to stay humble even with great talent. The evaluation officially ended for the day. Students slowly began to leave the hall, still talking about what had happened. Everywhere the same conversation could be heard. "Did you hear how perfectly she played? I thought she would struggle. Can't believe how wrong we were." The woman packed her small bag quietly, preparing to go home just like any other day. She did not wait for praise. She did not look for attention. For her, music was never about applause. As she walked toward the door, one of the teachers stopped her. "Please wait," he said kindly. "We would like to speak with you." She nodded politely and returned to the stage area. All the teachers gathered around, no longer as judges, but as curious listeners. "We owe you an apology," the senior teacher admitted. "We underestimated you because of our own assumptions." The woman shook her head gently. "There's no need to apologize," she replied. "Today was just a misunderstanding." Her calmness surprised them even more than her performance. One teacher asked carefully, "Would you tell us a little about your musical journey?" The woman hesitated for a moment, then began to speak. She told them about her childhood piano lessons, about long evenings spent practicing alone, about competitions she had joined in earlier years, and about how music had helped her through difficult times. She never spoke proudly, only honestly. The more she spoke, the more the teachers realized how deeply music lived inside her. "I stopped performing publicly for a long time," she explained. "Life became busy, and I lost confidence. That is why I joined this academy. I wanted to find my way back to the piano." The room became very quiet. Her story was simple, but powerful. Many people in that hall suddenly understood that talent was not always about fame or recognition. Sometimes it was about personal battles and silent dreams. The senior teacher smiled warmly. "Today you did not just pass an evaluation," he said. "You reminded us what true music really is." The other teachers nodded in agreement. They had spent years focusing on technique and perfection, but her performance had shown them something deeper: emotion, honesty, and heart. Outside the hall, evening had arrived. The sky was painted with soft orange and purple colors. Students were leaving in groups, laughing and chatting. The woman stepped outside and took a long breath. It had been a tiring day, not because of the difficult piece, but because of the unexpected attention that followed. She preferred quiet moments, simple moments. That was who she had always been. As she walked through the academy courtyard, a few students approached her shyly. "You played beautifully," one of them said. "Thank you for inspiring us," another added. She smiled and thanked them, feeling a little embarrassed, but also grateful. For the first time in a long while, she felt truly seen, not for her appearance, not for her background, but for her music. That night, many people could not stop thinking about what they had learned. The teachers reflected on their own behavior. They realized how easily authority and experience could turn into unfair judgment. The students thought about their own attitudes. They understood how quickly it looked down on someone without knowing her story. and the young woman returned home with a peaceful heart in her small apartment. She opened the window and sat near her old piano, the same piano she had practiced on for years. She ran her fingers over the familiar keys and smiled. Today had not been about proving others wrong. It had been about finding her own confidence again. The next morning, news of her performance had already spread through the academy. New students who had not even attended the evaluation were talking about her. She is the one who played the impossible piece. They say she is incredible. She doesn't even act like a star. But she continued to behave exactly the same way as before, quiet, respectful, and focused only on learning. In the following weeks, the teachers treated her differently, not with fear or distance, but with admiration. They invited her to help younger students. They asked for her opinions. They encouraged her to perform more often, yet she never allowed success to change her. She knew, too, that pride could easily destroy the beauty of art. One afternoon, the senior teacher spoke to a group of new students. Never judge a person by how they look or how quiet they seem, told them. True talent does not always announce itself. Sometimes it waits for the right moment. Everyone in the room knew exactly who he was talking about. The simple woman at the piano had become an unspoken lesson for the entire academy. Months later, she performed again on the same stage. This time, no one doubted her. There were no whispered jokes, no skeptical smiles, no unfair tests. Only eager listeners waiting to hear her play. And once again, her music filled the hall with emotion. Her journey proved something important to everyone who crossed her path, that confidence does not need to be loud, that greatness can live inside the most ordinary person, and that real skill speaks for itself when the time is right. The academy returned to its normal routine, but the memory of that day never faded. Whenever a new student arrived, looking nervous or unsure, teachers remembered her. Whenever someone was judged too quickly, students remembered her. She had changed the way people saw one another without trying, without planning, simply by being herself. In the end, the lesson was very clear. Talent is not about appearances. Wisdom is not about loud voices. And music, real music, comes from the heart. The young woman never became a celebrity. She never chased fame. But in that small academy, she became something far more meaningful. A reminder, a quiet inspiration, living proof that humility and ability can walk together. And every time her fingers touched the piano keys, people were reminded once again of the day they tried to test her, not knowing she was already a master.